Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Healing Her podcast. I'm really excited about today's guest. We have Sierra Maguire on the podcast with us, and she is somebody that I have known for the last 4 years, which is crazy. I think you officially are like one of the people I've had on that I've known the longest, Sierra.
That is awesome. Yeah, we've known each other for a lot longer than I thought. Like when you say 4 years, it just seems like that's been so long ago.
I know. And even just thinking about what you were doing then and what I was doing then and where we are now, it does seem like it could be that long ago, but then at the same time, it's like, holy crap. That's still a long time.
So much has changed.
Yeah, absolutely. So Sierra has been one of my close friends since I met her. We really connected over our story about body image and about our past with eating disorders and just our relationship to food and to ourselves and our confidence and just feeling comfortable in our own skin. And Sierra came to me right when I started 3S Fitness, which was my previous fitness business. You guys might know a little bit about that. And we started working together, and I just watched her just grow and totally change from the inside out. And it was the coolest thing ever. That's what I loved so much about what I did in the fitness industry, was that people would come to me and have the idea that they really want to lose weight or that they want to tone up or that they want to be stronger. And then they would realize that it's such an inside job. And Sierra really embodied that transformation. And so I thought it would be so perfect for her to come on, especially with how similar we are, to talk about her relationship with her body, how it changed, what her past was like, where she is now, all that good stuff. And to give you a little spoiler, Sierra is a personal trainer. She does in person where she lives in Kansas. And then she also has her online training company called Macfit, which I will have listed below, her Instagram, her website, all that good stuff in case you want to get in touch with her. I'll also put her email below too if you really resonate with her story and you just want to reach out. I'm sure she would love to talk to you about anything and everything that we talk about today and anything that you want to share with her. We're both really passionate about helping women heal from the inside out when it comes to their bodies, their mental and emotional and spiritual health and all of that. And we're both really passionate about it. So I'm excited that you're here, Sierra. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be on.
Yeah, it's going to be a great conversation. And I feel like it's perfect. We were talking about this before when we were planning to record together, but we're really in that like summer. I think does summer officially start tomorrow, June 22nd? I feel like maybe tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. I saw it on my calendar the other day, but
yeah, it just started. I don't know if it's exactly tomorrow, but it's summer. The season of summer just started or is starting really soon. By the time you hear this, I think it will have officially started. But we're in this, like, you're going to see so many ads for, bikini bodies, and you've already been seeing it, and just getting your summer body and, all of that. And I thought this was kind of the perfect time to just come on and have a conversation about body image and let listeners relate to us and our stories and your story specifically, Sierra. So we'll start with our rapid fire questions. That way people can get to know you a little bit before we dive into the deep stuff. So
perfect.
Our first question that I like to ask everybody is, are you a coffee or tea drinker?
Coffee all day, every day.
And what kind of coffee?
I'm just a plain Jane black coffee. If I'm at home, sometimes I'll use sugar-free creamer if I have it on hand, but I do really enjoy the taste of just plain black coffee. If I'm at Starbucks, I love to get a couple pumps of their skinny mocha syrup in a plain decaf or regular Americano.
Yeah, that's good. When I was drinking, and you can get the cool thing, because I really like the taste of coffee, and I'm obviously pregnant. And actually, maybe the listeners don't know that. If you guys don't follow me on any other platform, I'm 14 and a half weeks pregnant. You're going to hear a whole episode about that next week where I'm going to update you on everything. But I could have a cup of coffee or a half cup of coffee, but I don't actually have any caffeine, but I love the taste. And so you can pretty much at Starbucks get anything decaf or make decaf at home. And I've been craving it since I've been pregnant, which is so funny.
Yes, I try to limit my caffeine intake. Like, I don't really take pre-workout or anything. So it's just nice to have that option to get decaf when I just want the taste, because like I said, I am just obsessed with the taste of coffee.
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people are. I don't know. It's like it's a thing. People love it. And I think
it's just like cozy. Like I love to just like wake up and drink my coffee, and I don't know. It feels like home.
yes. No, I totally get it because that's how I felt. And when I decided to give up caffeine, I started drinking decaf because that was like Tim and I's time together. I feel the same way. Like coffee makes me feel, it like fills me up like my soul. Like it feels cozy. It feels like nice. I am totally with you.
Yes.
I love it. Are you, so I know you drink a lot of coffee then, but are you a morning person or a night person?
I'm a morning person. I get up, I would say anywhere between like 4:30 and 6, depending on the day, depending on what I have going on. If I have clients in the morning, I'm up super early. If I just let my body wake up on its own, I'm still up by 6 o'clock.
So next question, if you could only work out at home or in the gym forever, which one would you choose?
Forever. I would always choose the gym for sure. I love an in-home workout, but if I had to pick one forever, it would definitely be the gym.
Yeah. What do you love most about like going to the gym and being in that environment?
I'm just the type of person that I'm really motivated by surrounding myself with other people. I love to surround myself with people in business that are doing things bigger than I'm doing because it inspires me to do more. And kind of flipping it into the gym world, I love to see people working just as hard as me or even harder because it pushes me to then work as hard as them, and it motivates me to just try my hardest. And I just love the atmosphere of being around people and watching them do their thing. And I get ideas from different people too. It's fun to see what others enjoy for their workouts because we are all so different when it comes to what we do in the gym.
Yes, totally. I'm with you on that. What do you feel? I could wait for our conversation, but it just fits so well here talking about the gym that I want to ask you, because I think a lot of people get really intimidated by the gym because they might not know the machines really well or not know what to do. And what do you feel about like, I don't know, like gym intimidation, but not even that, just like, I guess, what's your advice for people that are like nervous about going to the gym and looking like quote unquote stupid, right? Like they don't know what they're doing.
Right. And I think we've all been there, right? We all have a day one. I'm on day I can't count, but I was there too. And I was fortunate enough to hire a coach, AKA Abby at the time. And this was 4 years ago. But prior to that, I was in and out of the gym a little bit. But I always ran straight to the cardio machines. I would always just hop on the elliptical for that exact reason. I had no idea where to go, what to do. I think first and foremost, I would find a friend to go with. I think that's the easiest way to kind of get out of that, like, I'm scared, I'm nervous, I don't know what to do, because you'll always have that person at least there with you. You know at least one person that can hold your hand throughout the process. Maybe they don't even know what to do, but at least you have that comfort having a friend or a family member with you. So I would start there. And then if there's a time that you have to go to the gym by yourself, just do your research before you go in and go in with a plan. I think it's a better idea to kind of go into the gym with an idea of what you're going to do, whether you need to do a little bit of research on how to use a couple different machines that you've seen at the gym, or, look up several workouts on YouTube or Instagram. Like there's so much free information out there. And if you just give yourself 10 or 15 minutes before you leave for the gym and write down a plan, I think that can help tremendously. But going with someone, I think, is definitely the number one key whenever you're starting out in that process.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you were saying that, I was just thinking about, I joined a gym that had a lot of like different kind of equipment that I had never tried before. And this was like when I was a personal trainer and had been a personal trainer for like 6 years, but they still had some new equipment. And so I would go with my friend and we would like try out the new equipment, and we just didn't care if we didn't know how to use it because we would just figure it out together and we were like a team.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And you're there with your friend and you're having fun, whether or not you're doing the exercises, right? You're having fun and you're in the gym, and you'll learn as you go. So having that support system is huge.
Yeah, totally. Absolutely. Okay. Back to our rapid fire questions. Sorry for the derail you guys, but I just wanted to talk about that for a second. My next question was, what is your favorite all time or just favorite right now, personal development, business, startup, self-help type book?
I would say for someone that wants to just really get into the self-help books or the self-improvement books, I always suggest You Are a Badass. I think it's a really good way to start. It's a really good way to kind of put your toe in the water when it comes to the self-improvement world. Some of those books can be a little slow to read, and I think that one's a little more lighthearted and it's a little more fun to get through. So it's definitely a good starting point when it comes to those types of books. And that's always what I suggest. And then with those self-help books, I always suggest an audio book versus reading if you're having a hard time getting through them. Sometimes hearing people talk is a little more soothing as well, and you can absorb the information a little bit better.
Yeah, totally. I get that. And I do like audiobooks. I'm more of a reader because I'm such a visual person, but everybody, I feel like the audiobook craze is like blown up and people love it. Like they're, places like Audible, which I think is run through Amazon, where you can get a book for, pretty cheap each month. It like charges you a credit or something. And I think that people listen to them when they're like at the gym, on the treadmill or on the elliptical. And it's like,
yes,
motivational
absolutely.
and inspirational. Yeah, really cool. And it's cool to like do that and be working on yourself, doing that personal development, instead of, like music is great too, but it's kind of cool to have that option of doing that while you're, I don't know, taking care of a baby at home or
and everyone's somewhere. Exactly. Everyone's so busy. It seems these days that a lot of people, they just don't have time to sit down and read, or they think they don't have time. I prefer a book because I just like, I like to turn the pages, and I'm kind of old school when it comes to that. I've actually never listened to a book on Audible or an audiobook. I listen to podcasts all the time. But I think it's a good way to get in that information if you don't want to take the time to sit down and read. I really love You Are a Badass.
Yes. No, that's a great book. I like that one a lot too. And just for fun, because I'm just curious, what is your astrological sign?
I am a Virgo.
A Virgo. Okay, cool. All right. So we will go ahead and give the floor to Sierra and just let you talk about your story. Start wherever you want to start, share whatever you want to share, and then we'll dive into some questions and just have a fun conversation about it all. So the floor is yours, girl.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you, Abby, for having me on. She kind of introduced me a little bit. Sierra Maguire. I currently live in Kansas. My husband's job brought us here from Illinois. And I was super apprehensive to move because neither one of us had ever lived outside of our hometown. And I will say that I would stay in Kansas City forever. I truly love it here, but that's besides the point. Abby kind of touched on how her and I met, and that is through, her company that she used to run, which was amazing. I met her through that. I ran across her YouTube channel, and I was at this transitional period in my life where my husband was gone for several months for his job, and I really wanted to focus on me. And at the time, I wanted to focus on me for my appearance, right? So I always lived an active lifestyle. I was a dancer and I was a cheerleader, and I loved being outdoors. Anything active, I just loved to do. But I was not necessarily ever happy with my body. So I came to Abby, and I was looking for the physical transformation. And throughout that process, I realized, kind of as Abby touched on, that it goes so much deeper than that. She has also mentioned that, I struggled with an eating disorder, and that all stemmed from, it was never on purpose. And I don't know that it ever is. I know each individual is a little bit different, but I had gone through a pretty bad breakup, as I'm sure most young females do. And it's the end of the world, right? And then a few days later, my great grandfather passed away. And it was just this really, it all happened within a week. And it was a really tough week. And I was really busy with family coming in and out of town. But I found myself just not eating. And again, not on purpose. I just didn't have the time. And then the week went on, and the next week came, and everything kind of settled. And I remember this thought, and I don't have the best memory, but I remember this clear as day. And I remember telling myself, you didn't eat that much last week. You maybe ate once per day, and you're fine. So you should do that every day. So it just became this battle every single day. Like, well, you only need to eat once per day. And I just got into this routine of that's what I did. And then it became like one salad per day. And if I had 2 salads, I would work out 2 times that day. I had started teaching group X classes around the same time. And I worked in the gym. I opened the gym every morning. And then I would go to my salon job. I was a hairstylist and makeup artist, and I would work there all day. So it was a lot of long days, and I was not fueling my body properly. And this went on for about, I would say, 6 months. And no one around me really knew the severity of what was going on, that I wasn't eating. I think they noticed I was losing weight. I was smaller, and I was thriving on those people telling me, oh, you look so skinny. Again, back to how I looked, the physical transformation. I was feeding into that. And I don't know, thinking back, I'm older now. And I think that was people's way of trying to get me to wake up, right? Like, you were so small. But to me, it was like, oh, well, they're noticing, right? Like, this is a good thing. So it was just this constant, like, rat race that I felt like I was in the hamster wheel and just going and going and going. And one day I just woke up and realized, like, something has got to change. Then it turned into binge eating, and there'd be days where I would just eat from the time I woke up to the time I went to sleep. And I knew that the next day, well, you don't have to eat anymore. So it would be a day where I'd eat and eat and eat to the point where I made myself sick. And it breaks my heart to even think about. And then the next day I would just tell myself, well, you can go back to just eating once a day for the next week. And it became the cycle of, I would pick one day and I would eat until I was absolutely sick all day long. And then I would go a week without eating again. And I got out of that. I think our bodies have a way of kind of forgetting the bad that happened. Again, I can't pinpoint the day that it was that I had enough, right? I think over time, I just grew tired of what I was doing to my body. So again, fast forward a few years, whenever I came across Abby and everything she was doing, I really, dove deep into trying to change the look of my body, the physical transformation. And again, it's so much deeper than that. Going through that completely changed my life 4 years ago. Again, I was a hairstylist full-time, a very successful hairstylist back home. And I was picking up and moving to Kansas. And I just had this feeling that I was called to help people and to help people the way I was helped by Abby. I think we all go through the things we go through for a reason. And I think if we can sit back and really focus on growing through the things that we go through, I think we can all change our lives and change other people's lives. So that's kind of what brought me to what I'm doing full time now, which is, like Abby said, a personal trainer in person, because I love, again, that interaction with people. People love people, and I love to be around people. And I do online training for people in various states. I don't think I have anyone out of the country yet. That would be super cool. But that's just really where my passion lies. I've competed in a couple of bikini competitions. I'm not currently this year. taking a little time off just to enjoy the gray area. I sometimes live in the black and white. So that's a little spiel on me and kind of how I got here and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And I couldn't be happier to kind of talk to you guys a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So the one question that I really wanted to ask while you're talking is just when you've had that moment where you knew that something needed to change, and then it kind of turned into binge eating, and and then it was binge eating and not eating, and kind of that combination. What really changed in your mindset? Did you find where, like, what made you at the end of all of it be like, okay, I have to like really work on this because it's like out of hand and it's too much and like it's not healthy? Like, what do you remember? What made you that switch flip?
No, I don't. Again, I don't really remember what the switch in my brain was, but I do remember no one really knew what was going on. So I was going through this all alone, which I think was probably the hardest part. Is I was young and I didn't know how to process all of this. I didn't understand why I was doing the things I was doing. And I really just didn't understand what was going on with my body and with my brain, because something was telling me to do these things. But I remember I obviously blatantly lie to myself. Like,
right,
you need to eat all this food because you haven't eaten in a week. And then the next day I'd wake up and you can't eat because you ate all that food yesterday. And then it grew to the point where it was, I just would eat, I got past the starving myself or the anorexic thoughts. And then I thought, okay, I'm just going to eat. And then I would again lie to myself and tell myself, you need all this food. And I was super uncomfortable and super swollen and, just unhappy. And I didn't feel good. But I remember I kept telling myself, like, you just have to get your period back, because during this time I had lost my period. And so my friends, like, I remember a couple times they'd be like, oh, you're eating again? Like, and not saying it mean, like, oh, I think it was they just weren't used to seeing me eat as much as I started to eat. And I would say, oh, I'm just trying to get my period back. And I would just tell myself these lies. And yes, I needed to get my period back, right? We all need our period, but
right.
I think I was just growing tired of living this like lie, I guess. And I think, again, that came with getting older and maturing a little bit more and realizing that you cannot keep doing this. You're going to wear yourself down physically and, mentally. Living like a double life, in a sense, it just was entirely too much. And so, again, I don't exactly remember, but I think I just grew tired of those lies to myself and then those petty lies to other people,
Yeah, it makes sense. And it shows a lot of like your inner strength, because I think that with a lot of eating disorders, and I know that women listening have definitely experienced, body dysmorphia, eating disorder in some way. Like, I feel like the statistic on how many women experience it in their life is outrageous, and it totally needs to stop and go down. But, and we're going to talk about that with like social media and the comparison culture in a second. But I just think that so many people that experience this get hounded by family or friends, and like everybody does know, and they do really see it. And so that's kind of where the switch flips. There are a lot of people that I know, at least. And that's kind of how my story went a little bit. Like, I knew what I was doing, but I wasn't really aware of the way that it escalated and that it was a disease. But I would like be staring at a granola bar that I wanted to eat, and I would be crying because I couldn't eat it. And I struggled from anorexia, for those of you who don't know my story here, which I've shared a little bit on previous podcasts. But I was never, I never binge ate at all. I just never ate, and I overtrained, and I cut out major food groups and did all of that. And so I remember that I was never hospitalized, but I was 76 pounds, I think, and like 5'1". And it was my junior year of high school, and I passed out in the bathroom in my dorm because I went to boarding school. And my roommate took me to the infirmary, which was like a little hospital on campus. And the nurses, my heart rate was like in the low 20s. And they had called my family because they were like, she's going to die. Like they didn't know what was wrong with me. Besides, like my roommate had obviously noticed I'd lost a lot of weight and I was I was like a skeleton. I looked terrible. And I remember the moment that everything changed because my parents called me crying and they said, if you don't eat, you're going to die. And I ate like 3 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches in like 5 minutes. And I never stopped eating since then. And and then I was able to like see my disease for what it was, but it wasn't an internal part of me that like was like, you have to fix this. Like it came from an external source. And I think like some people, it goes both ways. The initial spark came from an external source, but they wanted me to see a therapist, which I did do. But I knew that I could fix this on my own. When I realized that I was struggling from this disease and I was letting it control my life, that really bothered me. And so I was really able to fully heal from it and then wanted to help other women do the same. And so became my passion project and what I wanted to do. But beyond that, like I think that it was important for me to hear it externally and then internally like light the fire and keep going. Whereas yours is a little bit different. So you internally were able to be like, I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired of lying. And then, kind of switch it a little bit and start working on it, which I think is really interesting because our stories are so similar, but at the same time, so different, right?
Right, absolutely. And like you said, it is a disease. Yeah. And I think that's where I struggled the most because I didn't understand it. So I think there's pros to, kind of what you went through and your family being behind you and they, you needed that at that time. I think if I had been a little more open with what was going on, it may have not drug out as long as it did. And I could maybe understand it a little bit more, but yeah, we are very, very similar, but I wouldn't have even thought of that being a difference in our stories until, obviously you brought it up, but I think each person kind of goes through this and processes it in different ways too. Yeah. And that's okay.
Totally. It's how it needs to be, and it's how it works out. So through that, I know that we did so much work. We did a lot of work physically, because that's initially how you found me. But then we ended up doing so much mental work and you did so much internal work. And I'm just curious, like the biggest changes that you feel like you've seen in yourself since, those days of not eating and then binge eating and when you were really restrictive and all of that. And then versus when you started working on all of that and now, like, what are the biggest changes in how you're different and how you see yourself?
So I think then, 4 years ago when I really got into this it started again with the physical change and I saw those physical changes. I mean, my body completely changed and I was so happy. And I think that's kind of just what brought on this confidence. But what kept the confidence going is the girls and the women that would reach out to me, wanting advice on how they can feel how I feel. I was happier because I felt good. I was confident, and I was happy because I was confident. And I think that kind of spilled into other people. When I would show up at work, I was always so happy, and I think they could see that shift. And that's what kept me going, is their belief in me and seeing that I had changed. I didn't ever want to let that go. So I think that was the biggest change for me, was that I was then letting the motivation I was giving to others be motivation to me, that I can't quit on them. I can't go back to those bad feelings and those bad thoughts and those bad habits, because then I'm letting all these other people down too, right? And my family. So again, it started with the physical, but it completely transformed whenever it changed. I mean, it changed my mind. And I don't mean like, oh, my mind changed. I mean, it changed how I thought about life and how I thought about everything. Again, it goes back to people. Like, I love helping people and making other people see that there's so much more beyond how much you weigh or even what you look like.
Right. How does your mind shift? What was the biggest mental shift for you?
So mentally at the time, like I had said before, my husband was gone for a few months for work. And it was me and my son. And I mean, I had astronomical help from my family and from our friends, and a very supportive family. They helped me out a ton, but it was just kind of me and him. And I had to be strong for both of us. And that sounds super dramatic, but with my husband being gone, and my son was at an age where he understood, but he didn't quite understand time. So it grew harder and harder as time went on. And, my husband was still gone. And I think feeling strong physically made me stronger mentally. And I had this shift that I am now able to put forth this effort into my life that it has nothing to do with how I look. It has everything to do with providing for whoever it may be. And that is enough, regardless what I look like, regardless what I weigh, and regardless what I'm eating. I am still the same person, this strong person. And at the end of the day, that is enough.
Yeah. So when you were talking about how you really were able to internalize the response that you receive from other people, was this more a response to physical, or was it more a response to like mental and emotional and motivational type shift for you? So what you were putting out there and when you were getting the response back from people, and I don't know too if you mean like just the way that you talk to people and interact with people, and if they saw that shift in your mentality and just how you were doing, or if it was like social media related. But with what you were putting out there in your shift, like, do you think it was like mostly a response to like your physical transformation or your mental transformation?
I think for others on the surface, it was probably physical. They saw, I would post a few transformation pictures on my Facebook. I wasn't really into Instagram at the time a ton. I think, on the surface, it was more physical. But the people I was interacting with daily at my job or in my, group of friends, my family, I think they more saw the mental side of it and the strength side of it mentally. But overall, I would say physically that people saw the change and thought, oh, well, we all want to look like something, right? I think that probably drove a lot of people to ask. But I think I learned how to switch their thoughts a little bit into, well, it's completely more than that. It's more than what I'm looking like or what you want to look like. So yeah, does that answer your question? I'm sorry.
Yeah, it does. No, it does. I'm wondering too, just because I keep thinking about like the comparison culture and social media and just how when we post physical transformation pictures, just like how the response that we get and like what people feel. And I'm just curious, like what your thoughts are on social media and the way that like fitness models and fitness professionals and all of that is portrayed and how that makes women feel.
Yeah. So I think it can go, I think it can go obviously one of two ways. It can motivate people positively, but more times than not, the comparison game, it will hurt you. And when you see these, you see these fitness Instagram models or what have you, whatever you want to call them, fit pros, they're doing this for a living and they're getting paid to look the way they do. And I think the line is so blurred when it comes to social media because you want to believe that these people are 100% real and that they're not editing their photos and they're not making their waist smaller or their butt bigger or whatever the case may be. I think it's easy for people to compare to that because it's in your face constantly. Like social media is at our fingertips. So all of these physiques and all of these people's lives and these highlight reels, because that's what it is. It's literally in your back pocket at all times.
Right.
And I think it's a slippery slope. I try to post as real as possible as I do on my Instagram and my social media accounts. I try to, be as real as possible for that reason. But I'm sure someone's looking at my photos and thinking the same things that I used to think when I saw other people, and I don't want that.
Right. So I'm so curious because it's so interesting to me, and it really has, like I was in this industry for a long time. And so I'm curious, like what your thoughts are as a professional in the industry. Like, do you think that it's like my other fitness professionals' responsibility to, I don't know, to post things that are more mentally, emotionally, and spiritually meaningful than physically? Like, do you think that it's our responsibility to try to change that platform? Or do you expect that like other people just need to change the way they look at it?
No, I think if you're given a platform, I think it's 100% your responsibility to not take advantage and abuse that privilege. However, I want to post more about my personality and my, yes, my physical transformations, but also, the bad things I'm going through or the tough times I'm having. Because that's my mission, is to be more than my body, to do more than physical capabilities. But I don't think that's everyone's mission.
Yeah, it's not, for sure. Do you think that that's hard to like be that way and feel that way and like want to promote the mental, the emotional fitness side of it and get clients? Just be straight up and not physical as much. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think it's because people are more in tune with how they look.
100,000%.
You know what I mean? And they invest more in that, I guess is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And I think when they invest in that, then they realize like it's more than that. But getting to those people that maybe need more of the mental transformation, more mental work, it's a little harder to get through to them because we're all a little resistant to change.
You're hitting it on the head. Yeah, you're nailing it. Like I
think we're resistant to change, especially with our personality traits. We're all born with these traits, and whether they're good or bad or indifferent, it's harder to let go of those because that's who we feel we are.
Right. It's easier to keep it really surface level, right? And just look at our bodies and say, we are our bodies and our bodies have to look good or we're not good, than to look inside and say, maybe we need to change the way that we see the world and the way that we think about ourselves. Shit, that's
exactly
hard. Yeah.
Yes. And it's easier just to be who you are. Well, it requires a full change.
Yeah.
You can't just change the number on the scale and expect the happiness to come. It doesn't work that way.
No, it doesn't. Do you feel like you've really gone through that transformation? Like, do you feel like you've gone through like the big physical transformation, the big mental and emotional transformation in where you are now?
Yes, 100%.
And which one has been more rewarding for you?
The mental.
Everybody knows that was a trick question, by the way.
Yeah. Right. And I think, right. But I think it's important, I'm human too. I have days where I don't feel like I look as good in my leggings. And that's okay. But overall, my mentality has completely changed. And
it doesn't derail your day or like make
absolutely
you not eat for 3 days. Right.
Yes. And so that I think is super, going back to the comparison, is it's not always what she looks like or what he looks like. I think people probably think that people in the industry, in the fitness industry or in the health and wellness space or what have you, that we're always positive and happy and love our bodies and we're strong and we can't wait to go work out. And that's not the case.
No.
We all have those days, right? And that's okay. But it's giving yourself the space that you may need that day to, maybe journal about your affirmations. What are you grateful for? Well, maybe you're not happy in your leggings today. And again, that's okay. But what are you happy with? You happy with how your hair looks? Are you happy with what your son or daughter did at school or accomplished at camp? Like, be aware of those things and be thankful for what you're doing and what's going on in your life versus how you're looking. Because there's this like body positivity and empowerment like trend going on, which I love.
Yes.
But I think it's also important to be a little indifferent to that because there's more important things in the world to talk about and to stress about and lose sleep about. You know what I mean? It's just,
yeah. I think I see what you're saying. Like, we just need to figure out how to love ourselves so we can work on the other shit.
Yes, absolutely. And again, like I said, there's so much other things going on in the world than what we're looking like.
What we look like. Yeah. And it is like, it's important to love yourself and it's important to be confident, but we have to like figure out how to do that in a, not like, it doesn't have to be fast for everybody, but it's self-love is not an option. I did a whole month called the Self-Love Shift in the Healing Her Collective, where we talked about all of this. We talked about intuitive eating. We talked about eating disorders. We talked about, being confident in how you do that. We talked about loving yourself and just so much stuff. And I always said that like our affirmation was just like self-love is not an option. Like it's not an option. You have to figure out how to love yourself wherever you are, whether you're 300 pounds or 100 pounds, it doesn't matter. Like you have to love yourself then in order to be able to work on yourself and improve for the betterment of who you want to be. Because if you're punishing your body with restriction and with food, and if you're punishing it with exercise, you'll never get where you want to go.
Absolutely. And I think too, it's important for people to know that you can love yourself 100% while also still wanting to make improvements, whether that be mentally or physically.
Yes.
And I think that's where the line is blurred a little bit for people. Like, well, how can you love yourself but want to lose a pound or two? How can you love yourself if you're not where you want to be in your career? Like,
yeah,
because you're supposed to enjoy the process.
Yeah. It's so true. You can love yourself like through it all. You have this like unconditional love that you can have for yourself anytime that you want it, but you have to choose it. And like right now, there are things that like I am not loving about myself, like parts that I like wish were a little better, but I still love myself and who I am wholly and fully. And like one of those that I'm really struggling with is that being pregnant, my hormones have been crazy, and it has nothing to do with my like physical body. Well, it does, but not like exercise and that. All my hair is falling out. And I have read that like that was supposed to happen after I give birth. And the way that my body is responding to hormones is that literally all of my hair is falling out and it's all breaking. And my doctor says that like it's normal and it's just is the way that you're responding. But like I wear it up in a ponytail like 95% of the time because it's just like how I feel more confident. But I also know through that I'm so grateful because like my body knows how to like grow life. That's insane. And so I just remind myself of those things too, but it doesn't mean that I don't have days where like I'm not like bummed I can't curl my hair anymore or that, it's thinning out. It doesn't mean that everything's perfect. Everybody struggles, just like we've been talking about, but you can still love yourself through every stage of that. And I think it's a really important that you said that, Sierra.
Yeah, it's like the finish line for you is obviously your child, which is beautiful. And that's a wonderful thing. And it's 1% worth the hair loss because as a mom, I can promise you there's going to be more.
Yeah.
But it's not comfortable and that's okay. And it's not fun to feel those feelings and it's not fun to have those days, but they're going to happen. We're all human. But I think getting into a routine of how to get yourself out of that is crucial.
Yeah, 100%. And like that for me, you guys know, is my daily spiritual practice and like the yoga that I do and the meditation that I do and the journaling and all of that. And it's different for everybody. And I've been a very big advocate, and there's going to be a personal like solo episode coming on this topic, but that spirituality gets this like weird name because people relate it to Christianity and Buddhism and like all of these different religions. And then also relate it to like this new age, quote unquote, version of spirituality with like tarot and oracle cards and mediumship and all of that. And people look at it as like spirituality is freaking scary. I'm not getting into that. But spirituality to me, and the way that I practice it in the Healing Her Collective and I teach about it, is that it's just an experience of your personal spirit. And you need to just find a way to connect with that spirit, which is pure love. That's what it is. And it also has like a path and it has a purpose, but you have to find a way to connect to that spirit that is like your way. So maybe that's like taking walks. Maybe it's playing with puppies. Maybe it's working with kids in Uganda or, somewhere else and building houses for Habitat for Humanity. Maybe it is yoga. Maybe it is meditation. Maybe it's writing a book. It can literally be anything. Like you can experience your spirit in so many different ways. And I think as we talk about body image and about loving yourself, that's the way that you get to know yourself at that level. That's the mental, that's the emotional work, is finding out how to connect with a more pure, loving version of yourself than that egotistical, critical son of a gun that lives in your head all the time telling you you're not good enough.
Yes, I completely agree. And it's different for everyone. I would encourage anybody that is having that kind of battle with themselves, of really trying to just be, right? And be more than what your body is to spend time with kids. This sounds so silly, but the time, thinking back to like all the countless years I spent with my son, but the thing I think about the most is when I'm with him and we're just having a ball, right? Because we are a goofy family. Never when I'm like playing around with him or we're playing basketball, and because I'm a total boy mom, I wouldn't know what to do with a girl. That's besides the point, which is just funny. But
yeah,
I would think I'd be the opposite. But anyways, I'm getting off on a tangent here. But I never think about what my body looks like when I'm having fun with him at the zoo or at a water park or at the pool. Like I'm just with him. And so I think everybody probably has someone like that in their life. Spend more time with them and enjoy it. And it sounds so silly, but if you're having a bad day, like take your son, take your daughter, take your cousin, sister's brother to the pool and just be. And I think people would kind of be surprised with how that will change their mood. They're not in the gym. They're not, in the kitchen cooking this healthy meal, which, yeah, that feels great too. But just getting out and laughing, like laughter is medicine, like just enjoying your life outside of your own being is so rewarding when it comes to making yourself feel better.
Yeah, totally. I agree with that. 100%.
I don't know how I got off on that, but it just kind of came to my mind and I thought I had to say it.
No, it's good. It's probably a big way you experience your spirit, right? Which is what I was talking about. Like that's how you feel, like really happy, really light, really free. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, and I'm so excited for you to be a mom because I can't even explain. Like, it's just so hard to explain and to put into words to someone who hasn't experienced it yet. And I think it's a little different when it's not your own kid.
Yeah.
But again, kids bring joy in everything that they do. So even if it's not your own, but I'm just so excited for you. Yeah,
thank you. I'm really excited too. Some days I wake up and I can't believe it. And other days I wake up and I'm like, wow, this is so normal and natural. And we're so excited. So excited. But I wanted to ask you too, this was on my list of questions and it might take you a sec to think about it, or maybe you know it automatically, which would be funny. But I'm going to make a video about this. And so I'm curious, what is the best piece of advice you've ever gotten, or one really good piece of advice that you've gotten in your life?
Oh man, that's a tough one.
I know.
So when you say that, like, I'm just going to say the first two things that come to mind because I could probably sit here forever and talk about different things or think of new things. So one thing I always think about is growing up, and my mom still says this to this day, and she says, dare to be different, but don't be ugly. And that can go many different ways, right? But I think when I think about that, and again, it's super goofy, that's just me and my family. But she would used to say it a lot as far as like what you were wearing. Because we both we love fashion and we love to be different and we love to kind of push the limits when it comes to what we're wearing or whatever. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of adapted that, like, dare to be different in what you're doing, but don't be ugly doing it. And I mean, like, don't have an ugly personality. Yeah. Don't let the ugliness of the world, because there's so much of it, don't let that in. Like, be different in the sense that you're doing things differently than what your neighbor's doing or what the guy down the street's doing. So I've kind of adapted that into my life in a different way. But I still say it to this day, and she still does too. It's not necessarily advice, but just something I live by.
No, it is. That is advice. That's some of the ones I have are like things that my parents would say that have stuck with me, and their meanings have adapted over time too. Yeah. And that's really interesting.
Yeah. And I think one thing my dad has always taught me is just to do your best. And again, it's so cliche, but as long as you're doing your best, that's all that you can do. Again, as cliche as that sounds, if you're waking up every single day and you're doing the best that you can and you're winning that day, then you should go to sleep happy.
Yeah, 1,000%.
Yes. And sleep well, knowing that you gave that day everything that you had and everything that you did.
Yeah.
And maybe that day was only 80% of your best, but that's all you could give that day, and that's okay.
Right. Exactly. No, so true. That's great advice. Is there anything else that you're thinking about? Because we've gone deep in this conversation, and I feel like we could literally keep going for hours.
Oh my gosh. I think there's so much you could touch on. But I think everything that I think you and I both wanted to cover, I think we have covered, and then some a little bit, which I'm super happy about. But again, those two things that my parents taught me, and again, my own personal advice to your listeners is to just be more than what you feel like you look like, and be more than your body. Be more, do more, and just really drive home what makes you happy. Yeah,
totally. And just, do what makes you happy. I love it. Be more than your body. I think that's so powerful, and you should have a campaign around that. Well, Sierra, it's been so amazing having you on. I'm just so pleased that we got to have this conversation about the fitness industry, about comparison culture, listen to your story, get your advice, and just dive into some of these topics that I think are so important when it comes to loving ourselves and our bodies. And so just thank you for giving me so much time today, and the listeners so much time, and this amazing story. I'm just really, really glad that I had you on.
You are so welcome. And thank you for giving me this other platform to kind of share my story a little bit more, because I think had I had something like this to listen to or to turn to whenever I was going through some of these things when I was younger, I think it definitely would have helped. So I really appreciate you asking me to come on and kind of talk about this. I'm super passionate about it, and I really, really appreciate it.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you again so much. I will have everything that you need to know about Sierra to contact her and get in touch with her in the show notes for you guys. And we will have to have you back on again soon, Sierra. Thanks again, girl.
Thank you. We'll talk soon.
Okay. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Healing Her podcast. It was really important for me to have somebody on to talk about body image and eating disorders, and just kind of the struggle that women go through to look a certain way or to feel like they have to look a certain way. And I wanted to just dive a little bit into this topic, specifically about social media and about comparison culture and all those things that Sierra and I just talked about. So I hope that you really took something important that you needed away from this episode, and that you enjoyed it. Next week, I cannot wait because it is going to be my episode all about my pregnancy, and it's a solo episode. And then after that, I have a little series where I'm going to have some mamas or some mamas to be on the podcast to talk a little bit about their experience being pregnant, with their birth, with being a mom. It's just going to be really cool. I wanted to have some friends on to just get some advice from them and to just chat about this new adventure in my life, and probably in many of yours too, and just to have a community of moms on here. So I thought that would be really fun for the next few weeks. We're going to be doing that. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Remember to rate and review it. And if you send me a screenshot of your review to abbyeokeefe@gmail.com, which is in the show notes for you, I will send you a personal card reading and also the Kundalini meditation to clear the emotional past. So I love you guys so much. Thank you for supporting this podcast by listening. Definitely share it with your friends and family and anyone you feel like could benefit from hearing these stories of beautiful women being vulnerable about what they've gone through. My passion is really just to make women remember that they aren't alone, and so that everybody knows that all stories deserve to be told and that we're never alone in anything that we're going through, that there's always somebody out there that's gone through something similar, maybe not identical because every story is unique, but something similar, and we can take hope, we can find comfort and solace and wisdom from those stories. So I love you guys. Have a great day, and I will see you all on the next episode.